Hey everyone, I'm Ray, creator and co host of TechBuzz China. We're a bi weekly podcast focused on giving you a peek into what's buzzing within the tech community in China. We uncover and contextualize unique insights, perspectives, and takeaways on headline tech news that don't always make it into English language coverage, so you can be smarter about the world of China tech. You can find us on any podcast platform, including iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Acast, what have you. We are part of pandaily.com, an English language site that tells you everything about China's innovation, and we are powered by the Seneca Podcast Network by SubChina. First, for those of you who are new to the subject of China tech, I think this sentence summarizes most succinctly what I want to say, which is that China is the largest mobile first economy in the world. And largest and mobile first are two of the things that make it very special. So here are some of the consequences of being the largest mobile first economy that are really important to the subject of e-commerce. The first one is just the size of the digital payments system in China. So in 2018, that's 2 years ago, 92% of the people in China's largest cities were already using WeChat Pay or Alipay, that's from Alibaba, as their main means of payment. So not cash, not credit cards, mobile payment. And that number does go down for rural areas, but you'd be surprised, it's still 47%. In the first quarter of this year, the number of mobile payment users in China amounted to 776 million people. That's like twice the size of the United States and some. So, since we're talking about e commerce, then the second fact I want to present you with is China's e commerce penetration. It's probably not surprising to those of you paying attention, but China's online retail market, aka e commerce, is larger than the next 10 markets combined. So, on this graph that I took from McKinsey, you can see that China, that blue circle, is $1.5 trillion. The US is second, but only at $600 billion. In fact, just to give you an idea of how big China's market is, this year, earlier in June, when there was the 618 Shopping Festival, which is kind of this mid year shopping promotion event that a lot of the e commerce platforms get together and try to sell a lot of things. For a couple weeks in June, just the two top platforms alone, that's Alibaba and JD.com, were able to push through 1 trillion RMB of gross merchandise volume through their platforms. So this doesn't always translate to finalized sales, but it comes close. And that, if we convert it to USD, is $130 billion. Yes, just two sites alone in the space of about 2 to 3 weeks sold $130 billion worth of stuff. That's a lot. Third thing you want to know about China, now that you know its digital payments is huge and its e commerce penetration is high. Well, there are actually two Chinas. Well, depending on who you ask, people might segment it a little bit more finely, but for the purposes of today's presentation, all you really have to do is think about it in terms of developed China and developing China. So, AKA urban China versus rural China. And everyone divides this a little bit differently, but for me, I like to use urban China as the 400 million or so people who are living along the coast, the eastern coast of the country. And for the most part, they make at least $400 a month, which I know sounds low, but also cost of living is lower in China in many of the cities. And they're living lifestyles similar to what you see people here are doing in the United States on the coasts. So they're drinking Starbucks, doing yoga, things like that. In rural China, however, this is a very different population and demographic, and you have 1 billion people. Remember, China is very big, and they are much more like people in a developing country. So, typically, what we refer to as maybe third world or whatever moniker you have. But basically, these are people who are making much less, you know, a few $100s or maybe tens of dollars a month, and they are not able to afford the luxuries that I talk about. They're not drinking coffee or eating hamburgers, and they probably don't have any desire to. They have very different behaviors than the urban population. If you want to keep up with all those things, you should, number one, subscribe to our podcast. You should subscribe to this YouTube channel. And also, we have a newsletter and email us. So you can go to techbuzzchina.com and sign up. Give us your email. We promise we don't spam. We actually probably don't email very often at all. So, and reach out at any time. My Twitter is RUIMA, and our podcast Twitter is TechBuzzChina.